We'd have a little fun today. Thanks for stopping by, I appreciate it. On these videos, don't be afraid to comment or say something, you know. They aren't all one way. If you have a question or want to know something or make an observation or curious why I'm doing something or hey, you screwed up, I think, let it fly. It won't hurt a thing. So, we're back at the Hallicrafter. What I've done here is, it was such a beautiful day the other day. That was a couple days ago. Sun was out, it was 84. Now, it is cold and gloomy and miserable, and it snowed. Believe it or not, I actually had to run the air conditioner the other day. Not because of me. No. I'm a little tougher than that. Well, so we got the old Hallicrafter back in the house. So I played with it a little bit. If you watch those other 3 videos. Just kind of trying to decide what to do here. I made a little list. We need to find a couple knobs. That one's not missing, it just came off. This one is broke. It's got a chip. It's not that big a deal. The dial string on this thing is kind of a wreck. And I need to figure that out. And I swear up and down that I had some dial string. And I'll be darned if I can find it. So I might have to obtain some. This chassis still got a lot of dirt on it, and I've been slowly kind of trying to scrub it off there, and just gonna try one of these little scratchy pads, see what happens. Well, nothing in the big scheme of things. The bad thing is there's a bunch of, and you may or may not have saw those in the other video. There's a bunch of like little rubber stamps on the back. I assume they're probably inspection marks. A lot of the guys that do repairs or restoration, I don't really consider this a restoration. This is probably a kind of a repair or preventive maintenance kind of thing. Since this radio was built in '52, it's got a few years on it. Excuse me, I'm just trying a couple things here to see if I can clean a little corner of the chassis up any better than I've already done. All I've done now is just took pretty much a paper towel. I just kind of knocked all the dirt off of there. That's the bad thing about a lot of these old radios. They're metal, and if you let that dirt settle on there and it gets thick, it can kind of harbor moisture, and then that moisture gets a hold and gets a chance to start eating into the chassis and kind of making a mess. And I don't think there's anything I can do about that. I suppose in a big scheme of things, those marks aren't really that important. And it didn't really do anything. I wetted down a paper towel and tried to wipe some more of that off of there. It's pretty much kind of embedded in there. It's either corrosion or discoloration. I suppose you get a few marks on you after 50 years. I was hoping this face would clean up a little bit better. And that doesn't appear to be happening. Yes. face appears to be held in by... That's going to be fun. There's some little studs behind it that poke out, and then there's a small nut. I had some hopes of kind of cleaning that up a little bit without a fight. I got a piece of paper out and made a little list of things I want to do to this thing. It appears to work reasonably well. I haven't measured it, down on the bench, just off the cuff. I listened to some stations. See what happens. We use a little, maybe just a touch of car chrome cleaner, just a little touch in a corner. Looks like that chrome face has been getting beat up a little bit too. Well, maybe a little bit there. It might be taking a little bit of the dirt off. That might not be doing too bad a deal. It hasn't. I can't tell right off the bat. It's getting some black off of it at least. Trying really hard to resist the urge to take that all off. Well, it helped a tiny bit. It's not perfect. It's kind of trying to look at this a little bit, see what these marks even were. They look like maybe, some of them look like maybe surface corrosion, like it's going through the plating. We got a plating place here in town, but unfortunately, I knew 3 or 4 guys down there. We kind of, not hung around with the buds, but I'd done business with them over the years, and they all kind of retired. And then the place got sold, and the new guy isn't terribly friendly. He's not interested in... I don't know what his deal is. It's kind of weird. I can't describe it real easily. And I'm just kind of piddling around here, experimenting. Well, apparently the car chrome polish does work on the chassis a little bit, but I don't care for that when guys kind of, I don't know how to explain it. They'll strip a chassis down and they'll go out of their way to shine it within an inch of its life, or they brush it up. And it's real hard to explain, for me anyway. They like turn it into a showpiece, and it didn't come out of the factory like that, I guess. I don't know. Or they'll take the aluminum capacitors and shine them up. Since aluminum's so soft, it's probably easy to shine it. I don't know. People like that stuff, and I don't. Well, on my list here, kind of getting off the beaten path here a little bit. We need some knobs. And there's a few places you could search online. I need to fix that dial string. And to do that, I'm going to have to take this face off. I've been kind of looking at that. I believe, I think I can take all the knobs off, loosen the power switch and the headphone jack. I think there might have been 1 or 2 sheet metal screws in the back, or around the bottom, excuse me. And I think that will kind of relieve all that. You're a little bit more careful. I need to get online and find a schematic. I don't think that's going to be a big deal at all. Oh, cleaning, we've been doing that a little bit. Recapping the thing, I don't think that's going to be a big issue. So far, it seems to be hanging in there. I lost my antenna, it fell down. The cord isn't the greatest on this thing. It's not broke anywhere. I kind of went over it, but it's getting a little stiff, and where the cord enters the chassis is getting a little tired. Now, you could cheat if you're on a budget and unplug that. There's a kind of a strain relief grommet in there. I call it a strain relief because to me grommets are those little round donut shaped things. This is a strain relief. And that's probably good as time is any to show you what I'm talking about. Right here. That there is a strain relief. That's one of those split ones. Believe it or not, there actually is a special tool. It's kind of a pair of pliers with a big kind of pair of jaws. And I've only ever seen a picture of one. I've never seen one. I don't know, it just needs a good going over. This could be fixed. I mean, the only reason I'm going to replace it is the plug on the end is some hardware store plug that's just coming unraveled. It's a piece of junk. It's just breaking off, and generally just a nasty little customer. This chassis isn't a hot chassis, so you could use a standard cord, or I guess technically you could use a 3-wire cord on it. I'm not sure. I kind of tend to go with what originally was in there. So that needs to be replaced. Other than that work, it needs to be aligned and tested. Actually, it needs to be tested and then aligned. I've kind of got an issue with this rampant aligning things thing, and I personally think it does more harm than good. But that's my opinion. If you're doing it, and you're just doing this to mess around, that's fine, I guess. Knock yourself out. If you're doing this, and you're doing this to make a couple bucks, that's a little debatable, you know. Everybody says, well, if you're going to do all that work, then you're probably going to have to align it. That probably is a good, fair comment. On the flip side of that coin, if you kind of do some proofing or test the receiver before you go hacking at it and find out what its limits are, a couple things might happen. You find out, you know, if the thing really has a problem with like sensitivity or any of the other things that receivers can have problems with, selectivity or any of those things, or maybe the tracking on the dial is off, or, you know, there's a few things to look into. And it would give you kind of a benchmark to work from before you go hacking at the thing. And if you do all that and then do some parts replacement and then check it again, you might find it may not have changed much, and it may not be worth your time to fiddle with it. Keep in mind that every time you poke into these old coils, like this over here, you run the risk of breaking them up. a lot of those have ferrite cores in their iron or powdered iron, and they've molded little screwdriver or like hex slots or some other kind of mechanism in them. And after 50 years, they're not in the superest of shape, and I personally think you'd be better off leaving something alone than you would breaking it up. If you're going to jack with those, I really think you ought to maybe think seriously about taking them apart, real careful. A lot of these are just held in with little clips. There's a little brass clip. It comes underneath the chassis, and you can just spring that, and then it wants to pop off. And you can unsolder that real carefully and take that apart and see what's going on. I believe that this type of can for the IF is probably susceptible to the silver migration disease. What that is there's kind of a capacitor in there to help that can form an RC network or a tuned circuit, and it's sort of molded or manufactured onto a little piece of mica. It isn't a true cap. It's a cap, but it's not like an external component. It's all molded together, and the years of heat and humidity and stuff can damage those, and you get these weird, it's kind of hard to describe. You get these, probably the easiest description is you get this like hail of noise. There's a lot of weird popping and cracking and weird stuff, and you'll just be sitting there and not doing anything. You won't even have the antenna hooked on. There's a lot of weird crackles, and it's almost like waves or storms of noise. That's the best way I can describe it. This one doesn't seem to have that problem. It just kind of sits there and does its thing. So that's kind of my theory about aligning things. Now, like I said, if you're doing this for fun, and you're trying to learn something, then, yeah. But be aware that there's always a little sting in the tail where you go cranking on stuff, especially something complex. This is relatively easy. There really are only 6 adjustments. Now, granted, on the bottom, down here, there's quite a few adjustments, but the service manual or some, whatever information you get a hold of probably will take you through that. These sections kind of keep the RF away from each other. This is probably all the local oscillator. This is probably this radio has an RF amplifier, so this is probably part of the RF amplifier. And then this is the antenna input coupling section, and the book will show you how to line those things. There's a procedure. But again, if the thing's in good shape, do you really need to fiddle with all that stuff? I say no. You can only improve on these things so much. They're only so capable. So we'll probably check the thing, depending on what we'll find. It may or may not get aligned. Another adjustment you'll have to make on this radio is the BFO, which the back side of the coil is hiding up here, right there. There's the front side without its knob, and here's the coil in the back, and here's the BFO. That tube is shared with the I think it's the audio preamp that drives the output stage. A little unusual. Oh, well, I'm thinking about it. Let's talk about some danger spots. Yep. Where are we at here? Where did I see that? There it is. Right there. Have you now? See that? Oopsie-doo. Yep. Let me get out the handy-dandy pointer. At first glance, it looks like just a loose wire floating around in there. Here's the shield, and it actually comes and loops around here. And if you kind of follow this over, you'll see it goes in the leg of this IF coil. So if we follow this back a little bit, where are we at? Right there. And it kind of disappears, but trust me, there it is there, and it bends around and goes this way. And snakes up there, and it ends up there. Well, okay, what is that? Well, you widen out. Here's the back side of that coil, that BFO coil. That's how they couple the BFO into the IF. The BFO oscillator is usually at the same frequency that the IF is, and I believe the IF on this one is 465, so the BFO is at 465. So be a little careful poking around in there and thinking that you need to, you know, move something, or something's loose, or that's not connected. That is really true on the littler. They get these little baby Hallicrafters. I can't think of the part number right off the bat. They're little. They really are all American 5 type radios. They're pretty cheaply built, and they're kind of deceptively dangerous. And they've got some goofiness like this. And a lot of times you'll just see a wire kind of scurry through somewhere, and it looks pretty innocent. So be a little careful if you get to tinkering with one of those. Do some research. Oh, this year I'll probably run across a couple of them. I'll pick one up and we'll look at it and have play with it. They're okay. Yeah. You know, there's really a couple reasons to ever jack with these radios. One, because you really want a communications, or well, one is because you want a shortwave receiver. And I personally believe that if you throw, I can't remember what I paid. I thought I paid 20 bucks for this. Then the other day I was thinking, well, maybe I paid 25 for it. But there was another box of junk the guy had on his table. I can't remember. Or I came back. I don't know. Let's just say 25 bucks to be on the safe side. Even though I think it's 20. You get something like this, and you get it home, and you get it cleaned up, you know, and you throw some parts in it, and then you get the sense of achievement, you know, fixing something like this. You know, it'll last a lifetime. The tubes aren't hard to find. If you take it easy on the thing and keep track of it a little bit, or do some preventive maintenance, it could last another 50 years. It's built well. And I think this would stand up against any of the kind of flood of inexpensive little portables that seem to be pouring over the borders. I don't know. The smaller units of these, they work. They're a little hazy. I don't care too much for them. They are mechanically interesting. So there's really, like I was trying to say originally, which I forgot, which was there's really only two reasons to really, well, maybe three reasons to get a hold of one of these. One is because you want to restore one and you want one, and you want a communications receiver or a shortwave receiver. Two is you're a collector and you want to collect, you know, one, or you just like working on old radios. That's a good reason for me. That's kind of what I do. I'll get a hold of a radio and fix it up, and then if I see the same model and it's better, I might trade up, and then, you know, sell this off or trade it off. It's kind of a constant. It's a hobby. It's what it is. Another reason is you're going to get a hold of one of these to try and fix it up to make a buck. Yeah, about that. Unless you're going to get $200 out of the thing, you're not going to make any money. Just so you know. And I kind of think it's a disservice to buy these and try and flip them around. Especially if you don't do any work or investigate them. You know, as there is in selling a house, you have to divulge any defects there should be on old equipment. Especially if you know something about it. If you don't, then to me, you look like a buffoon. Just tell the truth. I got this at an estate sale. You know, blobby, blobby, blobby. Well, I think what we'll do is I'm going to stop here and let you go. I've gib-gabbed enough and I really haven't done anything. I guess we kind of talked about what we're going to do. So that's the plan. The plan here in this episode of amazing stuff that doesn't do anything is make a plan. So I've kind of got my list of things. We'll just go through it one last time. You can shut it off now if you want. knobs, style string, cleaning, caps, line cord, test, align, and what else? The manual. Okie dokie.